check everything. How we doing? We excited? We can get back over here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's go back up here. I love that it's playing. That's great. You love to see it.
Nice.
Another excellent beginning. Another no frills, no. Okay, well, if that's the case, hey everyone, how are we doing? My name is Alex. I'm the social and community manager here at Playside and on Age of Darkness, and I am here with two of the game's designers. We have.
Hey everyone, I'm Mario, back again, senior designer on AOD, and kind of like a piece of furniture, I guess, at this point. We're in all these streams.
Yeah, fan favorite coming back. Do you want to also tuck in a bit, make sure we're on that camera? You're good, Amza. If you don't think you're taking up too much of the screen.
I'm too big.
But if you do want to introduce yourself, say hey.
Hey, yeah, I'm Nicholas, also known as Amza at work. I was on a previous stream on Kill Night, if you have been watching the Kill Night streams. So designer here at Playside, worked on Age of Darkness alongside Mario, under Mario. And I'm really glad to jump on this stream with you guys.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's going to be a good one. And we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. So we've been playing some multiplayer because that's the new hot thing that came out with 1.0, which has been delicious. But that's being put to the side for the time being. And today we're going to be starting the first stream of what will be sort of a multi-part campaign series. So we have two of the designers who are sort of primary figures in creating this campaign, and they're going to give all the hot, dirty insights into how this came to be and everything, which is going to be super exciting. So I think with that, I'm going to quickly shimmy this camera across. Perfect. Oh, look at that. It's almost making no difference, but it moves so far. Great. Okay, cool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, jump into this campaign. We're going to start to get it going. Yeah. And let's... Ooh.
Alrighty. Prologue.
We're going to start a new campaign.
Start brand new?
Starting a fresh campaign.
Alrighty.
I'm nervous.
Let's get this amazing starting cutscene.
Yeah, do you guys want to talk through this cutscene and like how it came to be and everything?
Yeah, really, we just had a whole bunch of like lore and history of the game, and we just kind of had to give a few key moments, for things that happen in the story that had to be explained at the start. And it really was just part of that, and trying to make it interesting, visually appealing, without having too much exposition. We had a whole cinematic team that sort of worked on taking a lot of the design stuff and turning it into this. So we supported in this sort of stuff, but yeah, there's a whole dedicated team that is just fantastic at this sort of stuff.
I think it was cool when we had survival mode, and if for those who played survival mode before the campaign came out, and you saw the red crystals, and then when you got to the campaign and saw like how we're building a narrative focused around that as well. So it's really cool to see that stuff like reappear in the campaign.
Yeah, and I think having survival first made it kind of clear what we needed to highlight, and because people have already got their own
like
sort of
this
history.
big, this big thing.
Yeah, that's it. And then we get opportunity to also show some new characters as well, like this little hint here towards our big bad.
Spoilers. It's Edwin, if you guys don't know.
He is the nightmare.
No, he's in all my dreams, and I can't go into it. I've been talking to my therapist about it. No, it's really cool. I mean, one of the things we're definitely going to talk about today is because this game was sort of designed as a sort of survival first, and the campaign came later. Mario, we've talked about it on a previous stream of that idea of like some of these characters, Edwin, kind of had a little bit of lore behind him, but when put in the survival was just kind of a character. And the community was very much like, hey, what's the go with these characters? And then from there, we get lore, we get more characters, we get things being fleshed out, and that's very much what the campaign is. So we're going to go in, not just talk about like what those decisions were, but kind of get a little bit of that inside baseball, like how you guys took things, like you said, the blood crystals, which I assume just started as like a cool thing.
Yep.
And then you're like, okay, but what's the lore? How do people interact with them? What do they mean to people? And, volatus, blah, blah, blah. And things like that, which we'll get to later.
Yep.
We're going to start with, the prologue, and we're going to have Amza take the wheel, the proverbial wheel. It's very exciting. I'm keen to go into it. But yeah, so at what point in the campaign, in the development cycle, did campaign sort of very much come to the forefront?
I think it was probably somewhere at the midpoint. I think campaign took quite a bit of time to create. arguably longer than multiplayer, I predict. But yeah, it was something that we always kind of wanted to do, but I don't think we thought that we could. So yeah, it was a big sort of thing to pull off, and yeah, once it started out gain some traction, we couldn't really stop it. We had to finish it.
Yeah, and here we are. We start with, I mean, everyone's favorite character, possibly. We've got Hector, obviously. Shout out our boy Hector. Yeah, so do you guys want to talk a little bit about the story and the narrative and what's going on here?
Yeah, for sure. So this is a bit of a flashback. So as you know, people that would have been playing Survival when this came out, they'd only be familiar with I think Vizago and Edwin only. So I don't think Merrick was out in the initial one. And yeah, for those sort of people that already were familiar with it, would have seen that this is kind of meant to be like the pre-story, right? the origin of it. And we're also building more towards the faction of the Order. We're now seeing that there's this role of some dude with the staff.
Yeah.
You know, we're adding a bit more depth to it slowly, building those blocks.
Yeah, because before the campaign, we only had 3 heroes released, or 3 champions. We had Edwin, we had Aurelia, and
Yeah.
yeah, Alis, sorry.
Alis, yeah.
Alis, not Aurelia, my bad.
Yeah.
Alis and Vizago, yeah, spacing out. So, you know, when we actually start off there, it's like when you start off doing the campaign, you've got like Vizago here kind of starts giving you some questions like, why does he look different? What happened?
Yeah, this is a huge
What do you
thing.
mean? I've just started playing the campaign and I've always known Vizago to be a normal looking guy.
Yeah,
And not just him being not evil, but the fact that he's part of the Order. Like, that's something that there was no information of before this point. So
Yeah.
I think instantly it's like, oh wow, like what is going to happen? You know, like how does he go? We know where he's going to go, but it's, you know, the player will now be like, cool, I'm up for something bad's going to happen.
Yeah, that's definitely how I felt, you know, going into the game, and we'll talk a little bit about it with Aurelia as well. But this idea of, it's like, oh, I saw the characters, I sort of understood them from Survival and things, and it's going back to the campaign, and it really was a cool way to sort of like give more, you know, obviously lore, but I guess a greater level of attachment to sort of like the development of these characters, and you see them like blood crystals and using those abilities and like having those associations, and then when you start to see like, oh man, they were with the Order, and it like gives. Like the narrative weight, I think, does a lot to sort of impact how you play with them in Survival by playing through the campaign, which is really cool. Let me just quickly also, let's address these 2 questions. Drouse Oz, thanks for the game. Been playing with some friends and really enjoying beating it on the harder difficulty.
Nice.
Thank you, but also Flex. Oh, beating it on the harder difficulty.
Flex on the
Just started playing.
Yeah.
Carrying my buddies, hardest difficulty.
Yeah, you're already on Nightmare. Very, very cool. And then Trevo G, are there plans for mod support in the future? So, you know, the team has currently been very much focused on ensuring that sort of the current 1.0 experience is the best it can be, doing a lot of fixes. Shout out to the engineerings and QA for going absolutely ballistic with how much they've been doing. But there's definitely conversations that are happening with when it comes to, you know, the future of Age of Darkness and things like that. So something like mod support is a part of that conversation. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that's been discussed and brought up by the community and is being just recognized by the team, I would say. Also, if you guys want to like shout out anything in the campaign and in the narrative or whatever, or even from like a game designy standpoint of like, okay, we've talked about movement, which we just sort of blasted through. Do you want to talk a little bit about like what you're thinking about when you're doing like a prologue? You know, oh, okay, this is very simple, introductory to sort of the world of RTS, Age of Darkness. Like, where's your head at as a game designer with this?
So, like, prologue... so, I'll just give a shout out. Like, another designer worked on the prologue, you know, Shane. So, shout out to Shane making this prologue with another designer we had in the past called Nicholas. And... when they were designing, you know, this prologue, you know, the whole thing is you're introducing characters, you're introducing the mechanics. So wanted to do it in a way that streamlined the mechanics into the play so that they understand how to move, they understand how to fight, engage with enemies. It kind of just escalates as you go along. Like the enemies that you start off with are quite simple, nothing too crazy. So you're seeing just normal crawlers here. But then before we had like, you know, a few spearmen just to kind of up the ante a little bit. And it guides you along, like on this golden path, you know, where you're supposed to go, so you don't get too lost. So we just wanted to have a really story-focused, linear approach in the prologue, just to get you involved, get you learning the story, and engage with the gameplay as well.
Yeah, like from a story element, like what did you guys want to sort of achieve with like, oh, first thoughts? What do you want the players to think as like the initial thing they think of when AOD when they start this campaign? Because obviously, you know, you get to start with like a couple different characters. You get to meet Vizago, you get to meet Edwin, and you get to sort of like meet Merrick, who like sprints off. Like, what are you guys thinking? Oh, we want the players to think this.
Yeah, I think. What do you think, Mark? Because this was like your bread and butter.
Yeah, so I think with the campaign, a lot of these sort of things, we had an idea of what we wanted to tell in the story. You know, in game dev, usually just called beats, right? We're trying to hit narrative beats. But then besides that, we've also got gameplay beats. As Hamza mentioned, we're trying to onboard and teach players how to play the game, because the secondary goal of campaign wasn't just not just story, but the secondary goal was to bring players into Age of Darkness and prepare them for our core mode, our survival, and in the future co-op mode. So this also works as like a soft tutorial to RTS for people that maybe saw the trailers and were like, oh, I really am interested in this but don't know how to play them. This had to solve that. So these early missions really is about that. We're figuring out what parts can we teach people that are simple to understand and simple to master, that are going to be tools that you're going to use later, and then in the story, what building blocks can we give you so that we can pull off some twists and stuff later on.
And there are some twists, to say the least.
Yeah.
Definitely things. So, like, how much? Because obviously we've talked a little bit. I feel like we're getting too ahead of ourselves with the setup of talking about like Vizago and the twists and things like that. But like, at what point do you guys like go, ooh, what if Vizago was part of the Order? Like, what if Vizago was like a starting character you played with in a way that like they never would have played with before? Because like Edwin and Merrick, Merrick wasn't in the survival mode at the time, but it's like you would have played with those characters in the form that they kind of exist.
Yeah.
At what point do you go, ooh, that's different, that's interesting?
To be pretty frank about a lot of that stuff, that was kind of the core of the story, right? That before we even had a story, a campaign, before we were even planning on making missions, I guess, we already had moments of the story that were appealing. And I think having that betrayal of Vizago and this idea of them being old, brothers in the Order, and having this guilt. Each of the heroes have got an arc that we want to go for, and this campaign is very much Edwin's kind of arc. His big thing is the character of redemption, right? He's got issues in the past for fulfilling his duty over what's right, and this is kind of highlighting that the most. He knew what was happening was, I guess, what was going to happen.
Yep.
was challenging, and that was the appealing thing that we had there. So that really was the driving force for a lot of this stuff. It started at those moments. What's that cool moment that we want, and how do we get to that point?
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I love that. Let's respond to some of these. Giants Draconic, loving the game, especially the multiplayer. We're waiting for more stability, but overall solid. Hey, stability's coming. We're working on it. But thank you. Kind of been hard stock on Nightmare Death Knight 2 for a while now. I mean, honestly, even attempting Nightmare is pretty crazy. So being like hard stock on that is certainly not the worst thing in the world. But like, I believe. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, if you just keep trying, keep like doing different build orders and like really working on that early game micro, you're going to get there, I believe. And I say that as someone who's never been in Nightmare mode, but I'm going to gas you up. I believe you can get there.
You'll be surprised as well, like, a few people have started posting things in the community in terms of guides and stuff, but you'll be surprised how much a build order can change things on the different game modes. What may work in survival for Nightmare, Death Knight 1, Death Knight 2, may be a totally different strategy for co-op.
Yeah, 100%. And we also have Game is Sick. Any talk about expanding multiplayer to 3 or 4 players? I have a bunch of buddies that want to play. That's awesome. Get them involved. And it's tough when we all have to split up into groups of 2. Once again, that's definitely something that the community has raised and is like, we're definitely hearing. And when we talk about like what our future plans for Age of Darkness, the team is having these discussions and, something we're aware of. But that's awesome that you and your friends are hanging out and playing Age of Darkness. That's definitely, that's awesome. I mean, this is one of my favorite cutscenes, and it has also one of my favorite images, which is this. Just the yeah, it's great. So funny. And there's another great image which people post a lot, which is going to happen in, 45 seconds?
Yep.
Do you guys want to talk about the people that made this cutscene and sort of the work that was done on that front?
Yeah, I guess the shout out was, with the process, I believe, we had externals that helped build this out. but we would always do the storyboards in-house. So, we had, I believe it's like creative...
There's a few people that I'm not sure of, but I know Ruby was a really big part of it.
Ruby,
who
yeah.
also
Shout out
one of
Ruby.
our character designers as well.
Nick Merritt, I
Nick
think.
Merritt as well. I think there was a couple others that I'm unfortunately not familiar with their names, so I apologise. But yeah, we've got a cinematic slash
It's like a creative service team in a way.
creative service team, yeah.
That like builds it out. So yeah, they'll storyboard out like the main beats that will happen in these cinematics.
Yep.
And then once we've we like where the story's going, then we'll send it off and it goes through all the
Backstory.
magic.
And I guess another part as well is, obviously all this comes from design at the start with story and stuff in those moments, but another huge factor that takes this stuff from just zero to hero is audio. I can't explain how powerful moments in this are just from that audio. There's obviously a scene coming up that is intense. Audio is amazing.
Yeah, we can maybe even turn up the game audio. We'll do it after this cutscene.
Turn it up here.
Yeah. Oh, that's my favorite. I mean, that is the classic meme people post of like me when I play Nightmare mode. And it's like me when 2 crushes are at my game.
This is another good shot as well. I love this one.
Yeah. No, it's a really cool art style as well for it not to be like fully animated, but to be like kind of a moving image sort of thing. I think it's very effective. It reminds me of a lot of like Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, like early Miyazaki and those sort of like style anime, especially when it's like sort of everything is hand drawn, where it's like, oh, not everything is animated. It's like doing a lot of, not like shortcuts, but it's like, oh, we're doing different techniques to make image look like it's like fully animated in a really cool way, which I love, and that's an animation style that I love. Like one of my favorite movies is called Perfect Blue, which does a lot of that, and it's incredible, and it gives a slightly like unsettling feeling, which I think leads really, really well to the tone that you want to get set, where you're like, ooh, there's a little bit of unbalance, it's constantly moving, it's constantly shifting, but there's sort of still that staticness to it. Really, really cool.
Yeah.
Oh my god, congratulations for beating, the prologue.
I can play now.
Yeah.
I know all the mechanics.
And only 1 or 2 deaths for people that are just joining.
One or two deaths. And prologue, difficult game. So yeah, now we move on to the next mission. So in Act 1, Mission 1, so For the Light. So on Bishop Hector's orders, Edwin Everard and his rambunctious Squire Aurelia. So your character, Aurelia.
Yeah,
Who is
Aurelia.
this?
Who's got the order banner behind them.
Strange.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. So
Bug report.
yeah. Why is it not green? So yeah, there's a new mystery character for us, and they're making their way into areas long neglected by the Order to protect villagers from a growing menace in the region. So in this mission, we're playing as Order. We've got Edwin and Squire Aurelia, and now they're going to a village like there's problems with rebels and.
Shout out the rebels, baby.
Yeah, what's going on with the rebel faction? So
I mean, not to play my hand too fast.
yeah, but I think I feel like Mario would be a great segue to talk about. We had like a rebel faction kind of building up and like who they are and in the game and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. So, as mentioned before, a big part of this campaign was fleshing out these factions that we've got, and we've got the 3 playable ones, of course, but the actual world of Eridar and Age of Darkness, there's a few more than just those 3. So, the new ones that we're introducing in this campaign and this mission is the Iron Talon. They're kind of like a bandit, ragtag, nasty kind of crew.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Love that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sets them up well. So that's 1-2 punch.
Yeah. And then next to that is the Norfolk, which is just our commoners of Eridar. So the big thing here that we're trying to convey, I guess, early on in this campaign is the relationship, or the fall of the relationship of the Order and the common people, the Norfolk. Yeah, and this is reflected in Edwin and Aurelia as well, her being the young, sort of fresh blood, and him being the more jaded, old mercenary type, and was a bit defeated by his history.
Well, before you go on, let me just quickly turn up the background volume. I guess campaign has slightly lower volume sounds than. There we go. So it should get a little bit more pop, especially for those audio scenes, those cut scenes and stuff. Get a bit more of that character coming through. Yeah, I really like the way that you like instantly unlock a new ability and like that sort of stuff is coming in. Very quick level 2 to level 3 as well, which is fun. But
Yeah, it was like a moment when I was working on this mission. You know, the whole goal was as you clear that opening segment and you start the movement into the rest of this mission, it's like it has that wow factor, that delight moment of just really coolness, where it's like, oh cool, I got a new spell. It's my first active ability that I can use, because you start off with your passive Enlighten, which is more about just helping give emboldened units around you. But now it's like, oh cool, I have this new skill that I can use immediately, which I didn't use clearly against these enemies, but we'll engage with the next ones. But yeah. So let's see what's happening. Aurelia's already badass, you know, one striking enemies. While I take a few hits.
yeah, when do I get to play some? Yeah, and please, as the designer of this level, like, talk about it as much as give all the insights, the hot things. Like, if you have like, oh, well, we did this at first and then it changed. You know, please let us know. Very, very interested.
Yeah, so like when building out these missions, you know, we'd build out a lot of the block out. You know, so what's the general pathway? What's the golden path? You know, around the whole mission. As Mara mentioned, we have the story beats and the gameplay beats. We'd figure out like what those were, and we'd build out the whole block out around that. You know, so we have that starting area where I just was, and then that leads into the town where this cutscene would happen, and then you'd have objectives to take you to different parts. And then as we knew the gameplay beats, we would start prototyping in the objectives, like the main objectives, you know. So I'm going to go from A to B to C to D, and I'm going to do these different parts.
Maybe some optionals in there too.
Bit
some
optionals,
side
yeah.
stuff.
So once you get the mains out, then you're like, okay, what's some cool little side stuff you could do that could really add to, you know, the world building, the lore of the mission and whatnot. And those would be like little side missions that you could engage in. So, but in the early missions like this one, we wanted to really just have your focus on the base, like what it means to build like a base. So this first thing is about resources. So we're getting our resources back because they've been stolen by the Iron Talon. So I now have control of Aurelia.
Those guys aren't so good.
They're mean.
Yeah, or maybe they are good at it. You know, we'll find out, and you can have your own takes on that.
Yeah. So yeah, stole resources. So yeah, now we got to get them back. So, and then yeah, so you know we're gonna get our resources back. Once we get them back, then we can start building some structures later, which we'll get into. But as we, you know, going around, we're exploring. So this kind of feeds into the whole exploration element of the game as well. You know, I'm exploring the world around me.
When you're forced to navigate as well. I think in the previous mission, it's kind of you're forced onto a singular path. This is kind of the first one where we're really starting to take off those training wheels and say like, cool, get to the thing. Because every single thing that we're introducing is kind of like, if you can't solve this, you're not going to be able to solve the next challenge in the next mission.
And also for keen-eyed players, they could notice Aurelia's skills are a little bit similar to our... I'm forgetting the word.
Light
bearers?
Light bearers. Sorry, yeah.
We know it. We
I'm
love
just
it.
meaning Kill Knight for too long.
I'm been on Kill Knight. So,
Shout out Kill Knight. Grab a copy.
Yeah, it's been what, like nearly almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, you know, she's very similar to a light bearer. So you could say like in the narrative, she was trained like a light bearer. So,
Which is really cool.
Before she changed. So, and also it's a nice little soft difficulty thing for the players. So, you know, if you have a bit of trouble, chuck a heal in there, help you out.
Yeah, I'd say that a lot of our solutions like that, or things like even, you know, you mentioned before about Edwin having his active ability in this mission. A lot of those things, they ended up working for narrative, but also were used as a gameplay addition as well. So as I said, it's a nice difficulty thing because you've got healing support, but it also fits the narrative that, hey, yeah, the Order Squires often start out as light bearers potentially as like a role.
Yeah, that's really fun. Let's quickly go to two comments, which are like similarly. We've got Dead Fox, who said more playable characters, tower units, go wild with it. Yeah, there's that. And then similarly, John asked, will we see a roadmap for the future? These are very much things that are all being discussed, and I think a roadmap, you know, there's internally, you know, questions of like, oh, okay, what does the future look like and everything? So a roadmap will sort of be in discussion after those discussions have happened as well. So that's kind of timeline on that in very brief. Yeah. No, but I like this section a lot. I mean, it also like starts to really get into the idea of like chokes. and just very subtly like indicating like, hey, by the way, like chokes is something you want to like navigate around, and giving like alternate routes where it's like, oh, okay, so that like one base, like you can go via the top or you can go via the bottom, and it's like not, we'll see more of it as the campaign comes along, but you're subtly starting to be like, hey, this is map design. It could have been very easy to be like one way in, one way out, but that's not really how Age of Darkness survival works, which, I mean, an interesting conversation is kind of talking about the campaign and the early campaign as the de facto tutorial for the game. But like having these things where it's like, yeah, you will never really have just like dead ends in Age of Darkness survival unless you get like very lucky on a seed, but they're pretty rare, like maybe once or twice a map, which I think is really cool. But do you want to talk about the idea of like having this as sort of, obviously you have survival, but having this kind of as the tutorial? Because I think most people would suggest when you jump into the game, play this, at least the first couple acts, understand movement, characters, base building, which we're about to do more of now, and learn
so
those
like,
mechanics.
Yeah, so like we just saw there, we repaired a farm, so teaching players that, you know, how to repair buildings when they're damaged, which happens later, you know, when buildings get damaged by nightmares. And then, you know, we start getting them into building a lumberyard, and you'll notice, like, you know, you have the yield that you can see decent, and it gets better in better positions. So even like when we're building out these campaign missions, because we would actually do it all custom by hand, we made sure that, you know, we're creating these gaps here so you can get a really good yield.
Yep.
We wanted to actually demonstrate that in the campaign, right? So cool, okay, I know what that means, I want to make sure I do it there.
And even like having those two circles like overlap, I assume a lot of players are going to go like, oh, both of those would be good spots. Obviously, one is better than the other. But if you go and try and place like a second lumber camp, you're going to see like, oh, I actually can't place those right next to each other.
Yeah.
There's that overlap. I should prioritize the 24 rather than the 14.
Correct.
And getting players to start to think about it without needing to like hold the hand and be like, the two circles go red and you can't, you know. And I think Age of Darkness does a really good job of like explaining things, but also not explaining every single bit of detail, which is really hard to do in like RTSs or grand strategy games or strategy games in general, where it's like there's so many mechanics and there's so many different elements, and you want players to know all of them, but it's like if you're just explaining every single thing, it can get tedious, especially if like you've played an RTS before, you get the general concept, but also like if you've just got a pop-up every 18 seconds, it's just way too much information.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
It's too much going on.
So
But actually, I was going to talk right now. This is an example Mara was talking about where we had like little side content stuff.
yeah.
So you can see like the blue optional marker on the mini map, and here as well on our objective screen, like telling us there's we can free some militiamen. So basically now giving you an opportunity to get a few extra men. So when building out this mission, excuse me, wanted to have a way that, you know, you could build up your own little army to help you out when you wanted to go through and help out the other villages, because, you know, you're gonna have to help defend these when you get to them, and it'd be nice to have some extra soldiers handy when you go to help them out. So, and also just a nice little tutorialization that it's like, hey, you know, a campaign will have this. There will be these kind of missions, and this one's quite simple. It's just go to the location, kill the guys around it, free the men. So
yeah, and also reflective of the type of like de facto optional mission that you have in survival, which is going to points of interest, the camp being the one that like gives you extra units. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm getting used to the idea where it's like I can just kind of like go straight to blood crystals and start to like path out and protect like the routes that it's going to be, you know, defending Death Knights and things like that. Or is it more valuable for me to like explore the map, do these detours, go to the locations of the map which like don't really have any sort of like primary goal, defend against Death Knights, but will give units and make my life easier. Let me just read these two comments because these are really nice. Sire Washington, hey, hoping to creep on the stream and say that this has been one of the best RTS games me and my brother have played in years.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
That feels so nice.
And then Blanked DJ, welcome to the chat. Yo, me and my friend have been suffering on nightmare mode. I mean, aren't we all? But once again, I'm so impressed by the amount of people that are like, hey, we're already in nightmare. It's
Yeah,
like,
everyone's on the
We're
nightmare.
going to make the game harder.
yeah.
Goddamn.
I mean, on the last stream, there were like, when there was no crusher on like normal difficulty, final stand. And Josh was like, do we put a crusher in? Like, do we start putting a crusher in? Do we make that game harder?
Also, Suffering on Nightmare.
Yeah.
Shout out Kill Knight Suffering.
Yeah, shout out Kill Knight Suffering Squad. If you guys haven't played Kill Knight, what are you doing? Gets an entirely different type of game, but emotionally very similar in that you will be challenged.
That was funny.
The game is a blast, but we often... sorry, you guys keep talking. Let me read this full comment in my head.
Go for it. Yeah, so it's really cool. I mean, Suffering's even, on the dev side, like, it's not an easy mode for some of us, like, just to get through. Like, one thing that we always did that was kind of funny was when we had you people join the project, we said, to fully engage with it, you need to be able to beat it, not on Sufferings, that would be too mean, but...
Nightmare.
Oh my God.
Wrong game.
My Kill Knight brain is just overtaken.
Yeah.
Completely.
Kill.
Yeah, just kill.
Age of Darkness.
Age of Darkness. Oh my God. Yeah, Nightmare mode. Apologies. So, when people came onto the project, we would make them play the veteran difficulty.
At minimum.
At minimum.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, once you can beat veteran, it's like, okay, they know.
Yeah, if we had new designers join the team as well, we actually wouldn't take their opinion serious. We'd say, like, you need to be able to beat the game first, because otherwise it's just surface level sort of feedback. And I'd say, I know I experienced this, and I'm predicting everyone had the same thing, and you really do. When you finish it, you have a different perspective, because you're like, oh, this is the beast that we're dealing with.
Yeah. It was so funny to see, like, oh, this game's actually not easy.
Yeah.
These are actually two good questions for designers that are here. Okay, so to continue Blank DJ's question, the game is a blast, but we often find out that spawning in a seed without a close iron source was, at the very least for us, not possible to make it to the last wave with enough units to clear the map. Is it something you guys might consider adding as a consistent nearby source of income in the early stage?
Is this specifically for Nightmare?
I think this is specifically for Nightmare mode. So I guess, like, what is the consideration with, like, having iron? Because sometimes iron is really close, and sometimes it's not. So I guess, like, as far as that consideration game design wise of having it be a bit more of a roll of the dice of how early you can get iron.
Yeah, so the way that the maps are done, they're done through procedural generation as predicted, and we do have rule sets, and part of those rule sets are trying to ensure that you've got certain amounts of resources at certain levels, but I think naturally with procedural generation, there's always a chance that you're going to get a seed that's not ideal. So I think what we need to do is it's just further improvements to the map gen, just ensuring that the accuracy is higher and you've got less chances of things messing up. I think the one that may be causing it, if I have to think about it off the top of my head, is potentially elite points of interest. I think they may, when they spawn in, maybe clash with the map generation. Often you'll find if you've got a difficult map in co-op, you'll feel like you're kind of surrounded by elite points of interest. So I think we could probably do some work there to improve that and alleviate that problem.
Yeah, wow. Well, great answer. Yeah, love that. I mean, but it's also one of those things where it's like, if you are playing on Nightmare mode, things are going to be tricky, and, like that idea of like, oh, I kind of need all these different things to go my way. There is also a level of like, the better you get, and we see people do absurd self-limitations and things like, using... Like, I think the craziest challenge I've ever seen, I reference it a lot, is no walls, no towers. And they beat it on 8.8 Nightmare mode. So it's like,
so crazy.
The game is like beatable, at anything. And it's like, if you just get better and better and better, any limitations, even if it is things like, oh, I didn't get iron close, it's like, people can beat the game.
That is true. I think one of the most impressive ones I've seen is another one of our... he worked as a designer a little bit on Age of Darkness, but previously he was QA, Cam. He was a monster at this game, playing on Nightmare, and the first time he ever playtested co-op with me, it wasn't with me, it was with someone else. He, last second, they were about to lose, last second rush push a point of interest by himself, and turned, obviously got 20 units or something like that, and
crazy.
won the night because of that. So I think there is always a chance that you could do something that is crazy to try to counter those odds at the start.
100%. So Washington, I mean, similar question we've kind of been asked, but so I got to ask, we expect to see more heroes added to the game or more units. Once again, all these sort of things are very much under consideration, and I think more heroes is is in the conversation. But this will be sort of like talked about by the team in a much greater fashion after sort of this initial pre-release push by the devs and QA, which is much more focused around bug fixing, crash fixing, all of those sorts of things. And I think we've done 6 or 7 hotfix patches in the last 2 weeks. So that's kind of that. And then we have another sort of designer question. Oh, is there anything gameplay-wise you want to... Actually, let's talk about gameplay-wise of... We've just been introduced to gates and towers and defending chokes, which is really starting to resemble what kind of Death Knights will look like and the sort of core objective of survival.
Yeah.
So you don't want to talk about that decision-making and...
Yeah, so introducing you to more defensive options now. So really trying to get you to understand how walls work, how gates work, how towers work, that you can put units into those towers as well. Also, the whole sequence of this event is you have waves attacking.
Yeah.
Because you have waves in the main game that do it. In survival, you have pest waves that come at you. You have the Death Knight waves that attack you. So
I had no clue they were called pester waves.
yeah,
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I didn't know that's what they were called.
That's what our goal was when we made it.
Yeah, pestering.
It meant to annoy you.
So yeah, it's like that was the whole goal of that early part. Teaches you a bit about defense, how to build up those defenses and fight off some waves. So yeah, they're all meant to be skills that you'll build up in the campaign that you can take with you to survival. So that was one of our goals, like as we were building out this campaign. Everything I'm learning in each chapter is another thing in my tool bag that I take with me to survival to get better and better.
And I'll say, like, with these missions, it's not like we had 100% accuracy. Like, we planned it out and we're like, all right, Amzar mission 1, we're going to do towers, this unit, that unit. We had a general idea.
Congratulations.
Nice.
Oh my god, the 0 death continues.
It's almost like I knew the mission.
When I first played that, I was sweating way more than you were, just like, da 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 da.
Like, oh, I'll go here.
Yeah. No, that was very cruisy. Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, see. And then also, the great thing about the mission success screen at the end, if you notice in the prologue, it ticks it off. But yeah, it's like we have a little thing, getting those optionals if you want, the little side quests. So get that 100% clear rates.
But that's also just like, I think, a nice level of like extra validation.
Yeah, it feels nice.
Mission success, great, pretty standard, but it's like, oh, here's all the things that you did and a little reminder. It's like, oh, cool, I did that. Especially if, it takes you like 15, 20 minutes. Some of the later missions are a bit longer.
And you can see it in your world map as well. Like, make sure if I got all the objectives done. So, as I go through it. But while we're here, do we want to talk about the map a bit?
I love the map. I love the map
because there's so much about
Bruce Rillis, our wizard.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
he did so much work on this.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's great.
You can to zoom out the names of all the places.
Yep. It's a team effort, but yeah. Shout out to a couple of people,
including myself.
Shout out to Patch, Nick, maybe even Adam G, the OG Adam G. Yeah, a lot of work went into this stuff. There was a point where we didn't have a specific number of missions we wanted to do. I think initially we aimed for a little bit higher than what we ended up having. And because of that, things like the map and, the world, we really tried to plan it out to be a living, breathing thing. So we didn't make 10 missions and then say like, oh, we want to have 10 locations. It was all going at the same time.
And you can even see we had factions like who would occupy certain areas of the map, So in Norwood you have the rebel forces like already taken over here, and then you've got the Order in Aaron Grove.
Oh, also Aaron Grove. We've
Grove.
got some lore tied to some of these locations.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get into next mission. So Iron Talon is spreading far and wide in the Order's absence in an effort to gain the faith and favour of the common folk. Edwin and Aurelia must dismantle the Iron Talon's training grounds. So this mission, very close to my heart. I really like this mission because it was a fun little mix of taking out Iron Talon, but also delving into some old lore in the world, like Alosan ruins that you'll see. So it was
Alosan ruins. Oh my days!
So it was really cool to basically, because the whole premise was that they built this big base within the Alosun ruins. So when I was doing the level design, I had to basically, build out this area that kind of looked like it was an old city, like an old town, like that was in the Alosun days, but it had been like makeshifted for the Iron Talon to function as their base. So
Do you want to talk about how like you level design and then how that like you work with sort of like environment artists or whoever to sort of go from a concept and how much you're doing on sort of the like visuals versus like an artist and things like that?
Yeah, 100%. So as we would build out the level design, like the grey box, like all the main areas that you could go down in the golden path, all the walls and the buildings and structure, like just the core elements of the level design. That would get set out first, and throughout time we would get updates to some of those assets. So like, for example, those walls you saw in the cutscene were just kind of like grey walls, and then eventually they got upgraded, looked nicer. And then once we had like all that kind of set out and we put in the main buildings that the factions would have, then we would give it off to our environment artists who would do set dressing. And set dressing was, putting in like these crates and little stands and down here as well, the fences and the broken buildings and the rock formations, and just to really give a lot of life to the world so that it didn't feel so empty. So that was my favorite part, because it was like you did this really cool level design and then you felt really happy with it, and then you handed it off like your baby to the artist, and then it comes back like this and you're like the whole place has just been decked out, looks so beautiful now.
Yep. Like
it's lit up, it has life to it. So that was basically how we would do it. And then after that, it was a whole process of balance and iteration and make sure that
collision bugs
and random editor things, because editors are always pretty crazy in how they're made. So but yeah, and then eventually we just kind of would fix things as they came up and did our best to balance out the missions, make sure the units that you're fighting, because they're not nightmares that you're fighting humans, you're fighting soldiers.
So yeah, I guess that's a good question of like, obviously you never do that in survival, like you're never going against people. Like, why was the decision made to have much of the campaign, at least in the early game, be focused on fighting humans rather than fighting nightmares?
I think we wanted the way it came about is that we wanted nightmares to be this thing that would be like a threat that was off in the distance and gets introduced and escalates. Yeah. If they just kind of came in first mission, it's like it didn't feel like it would have an impact as much later on. Mm-hmm. So you start off with local problems. You've got the Iron Talon, which are these bandits that you're trying to take care of, and they're like a common problem amongst the people. And then slowly, as you'll find out in the missions later, you have this threat that's far worse than you actually thought it was, which are the nightmares.
It is kind of reflective of the intent of the story as well in this world. It's meant to be that whilst humans are sitting there bickering and having all these dramas between each other about territory and history and stuff and power, once the nightmares come, it doesn't really matter, right? The premise of this is like the last bastion of humanity where even someone like Merrick could end up being a hero if
what do you mean could be our hero?
He's my hero.
Yeah. Where are Merrick shirts? Where's Merrick merch?
Team America.
Team America. But yeah, I think one thing I really mentioned that I loved in this mission was I really wanted to up the amount of optional content you could do here. So
that's cool.
So, and not even just like optional like objectives, but even discovery. So finding things like, what's up this path?
What is up this path?
We're gonna find out.
Oh, okay.
How so we're gonna see.
Stay tuned.
So I'm like, what's here? Like, if I go here, there's rock formation, so I can't go there because I'm blocked. But if I go down here, like, a little signpost, was there like some little town here or something? So get a little bit of a lore dump, see like, there's a cool little city here that you can discover. And then as you go in, you notice like these little things on the side here. And you get some objectives. Get some little gold, get some wood and stone, and a bit of an ambush as well. Yep. Because, Iron Talon just love to be everywhere. And
but it's also cool to see that they're like, you can see their tents.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, we have like a farm and we have a broken other building and then a broken tower. And it's like, but the Iron Talon have come in and sort of like you know, maybe the lore implication is like this was a farm and they came over and they sort of, you know, murdered the people that lived here and are now like holding base, and it's like they have their stash of things that they've stolen, which we've seen from the early like Act 1, Mission 1, where they're like, oh, we'll take it from you, you know, and it's like, oh, and that's the stuff that they've taken. And you get to take it back, and a little bit of spoilers in the story, but it is interesting that, you know, that sort of choice of what do you do with the goods that you get. Obviously, in this, from that crate specifically, you use them, but you know, do you use them or do you give them back? Starting to be sort of a choice that will happen narratively and becomes a bit of a dichotomy, or a sort of the two sides of Aurelia and Edwin's argumentation, which we'll see unfold. But I think that sort of stuff is really cool as well, and it's like very subtle storytelling through game mechanics and art design. Without, you know, and then being set up in sort of like cutscenes and everything like that. But that's really cool that was like a focus that you wanted to have in there.
Yeah, 100%. And also like with the optional objectives, didn't want to just make them as simple, do this thing, get a little reward. It also ties into other game mechanics where, say, for example, when you want to build archers, right, you need stone. So I need to get stone to build more of these guys. And the start of this mission does give you a bit of stone just so you could build a few archers. But in this optional objective to get a stone vein, I'm kind of incentivized to do it because then I can actually start mining stone so I could build more archers later on in the mission. So it actually ended up being something that was not 100% a necessity, but I really wanted to do it. So I wanted to make sure we could push those onto the player as like actual optional objectives I really want to do. So yeah, that was kind of a goal going forward. And then this thing is always scary because it's like, oh, a tower. So
when you know from the last mission how strong a tower can be, so now you're up against one that's like, uh-oh.
So it's like,
also preparing you for, you know, things that'll happen later on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I mean, like, how much did you guys consider, like, oh, okay, survival came out first, and survival very much is like, you need to figure it out. Like, it's like there's a lot of not like problem solving, but I guess there is quite a lot of problem solving in AOD survival. Obviously, like how you build your sort of base configuration and the sort of like tower defense that you set up is a bit sort of like puzzly and how you want to approach it. So when we come to like things like this, how much were you guys considering like, oh, we're trying to encourage people to start to think like problem solving, starting to think like, oh, I should go get stone so I can get archers and things like that, versus like an RTS where maybe there's less problem solving, so missions could be a bit more prescriptive. I guess like, yeah, how much of that was a consideration?
Sorry, I was...
Oh, you were focused?
I was so focused.
Oh, okay,
yeah, on the mission, sorry.
Oh, I was just like asking, like,
Yeah.
you know, because obviously Age of Darkness is quite like a problem-solving survival game.
Yep.
How much of the campaign and objective did you want to make it like the player's problem-solving rather than you setting objectives which make it like very clear and it's like a follow the golden, you know,
Yeah,
trail
100%.
sort of objective
'Cause
style?
we would have like little, you know, golden paths that you could take to get to certain objectives, but we wanted you to make sure that you were thinking about other opportunities as well. So, you know, in this mission as well, we have like a little hidden path here that if you take it, it kind of takes you around to the back. So you're kind of solving that problem. Like, how can I get in there sneaky, not have to deal with like defenses that are up here? I should actually
Show the people.
bring a soldier there to show what I mean. I'm just like
An archer? Oh my god,
My-
that's crazy. Bro.
Sacrifice.
sacrifice for the men. Just oh god,
You might need to shift right click Q move.
that's a good point.
I mean, live your best life. There's no rush. I mean, we can all hang
Get
out.
him there.
In the meantime, I can read some of these. Hey, star sign Pisces 95. I wonder what star sign you are.
What year they're born?
Yeah. It could be anything.
Yeah, it's like,
Uh-oh.
here we go. Oh,
For the order.
yeah, and then you're like, yeah, dead. So you're like, okay, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But, yeah. God.
You will be forgotten. Your death was in vain. So Star Pisces says, you know, I'd love to see more factions. And then they bring up the idea of, I mean, in the campaign, there are two other factions, if I remember right, the Iron Talon and the Empire, or whatever the name.
Older
that was
Empire, yeah.
under the yellow banner.
Yep.
I do really enjoy this game. sorry, I can give this a bit more verb. I do really enjoy this game. Gonna love it. In fact, the great campaign and fun survival mode and MP. Thank you for shouting out the 3 different game modes we have. Yeah, I mean...
Pisces are the best.
Yeah.
Pisces are the
Very fair. Yeah, no, I think there's a really good considerations when talking about sort of bringing in that sort of campaign lore into survival. I mean, that is a question in general. It's like we've talked so much about how survival was first, and then campaign sort of built out a lot of that stuff.
Yep.
How much then did survival build out from the campaign, as you guys kept developing and kept growing and adding future units or adding, future heroes and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'd say definitely a bit less because, just the nature of survival, there was so much of it that was already sort of fleshed out in terms of we haven't added many buildings since campaign. But things like heroes, blessings, malices, some of the content that we added in 12.0 before 1.0 release, definitely were inspired by and were kind of discovered through missions that we created in the campaign. One that I've spoken about before is the Veil Bond hardship, the one where you get 2 heroes and they've got the hero cap. That's directly inspired by feelings that we got from making missions where you control 2 heroes. So there's a bit of it.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of it. In terms of factions, yeah, we've got plenty of options.
Yeah, for sure. Let's ask you a bit of a designer question, which you guys might. It's a tips and advice. So firstly, I will say, sorry, I have no idea how to pronounce his name. Tugra Hassan Kavuk. I just completed veteran difficulty. Mad flex. Congratulations. Yes. That's huge. You've now qualified to be able to work on Age of Darkness.
Yeah, you're legit now.
Send in that resume. And then John also asked, did struggling with crushes, a hunter arbalist the only way to deal with it? Yeah, do you guys have any tips on how to deal with crushes? Not that we're going to see any in this campaign, but I think that is a big threat that a lot of people struggle with, me included.
Yeah. So
oh my god, congratulations for completing this part of the...
What a mess.
Yeah, let's focus on this, because this talks a little bit about what I was mentioning before about this sort of uncoupling of this relationship. Mario, do you want to talk about maybe how you wanted to go about these two being connected and close and slowly losing that connection?
Yeah, so the big thing we wanted here was that, the father and angsty daughter sort of relationship. He's not Edwin's daughter, but that was the kind of relationship we're going for.
De facto.
Yeah. So it was the mentor trying to, almost project his own trauma from things that he's felt in the past upon this child who really isn't suited to be that way, So they're constantly at odds at the start. A lot of it is, as I mentioned before, Aurelia's young and sprightly. She cares about what she thinks is important, and Edwin's kind of he's going through the motions a little bit. He feels a bit defeated internally. There's a lot of pain, a lot of stress about what he's done, and a lot of guilt. So when that comes to the surface, she doesn't really have the tolerance for it, right? And that's why they butt heads when it comes to these sort of morally questionable events that occur.
Yeah. No, very cool. So one of the cool optional missions I think that we are being introduced to right now is sort of what is a Death Knight countdown.
In a way, yeah. It's like you got these guys that are gonna break down this rubble and pincer you from the side, take you out from the rear. So that was a kind of cool little pressure to put on the player, just to sort of be like, okay, they're coming. But then also it reinforces what you learned in the previous mission, So start building out some defenses, maybe start getting a some resource for a tower so that you could defend against it before they come at you. So, that was the whole goal, where we taught you that stuff. Just want to make sure that you still remember that.
This is such a good moment because I think as you mentioned, you're sort of building upon knowledge, right? And through that knowledge, this mission has taught me that there's high paths and low paths, right? And through your own discoverability, you've figured out some stuff, and now that's turned on you. So you've really upped the ante here, where it's like, oh, that's going to be turned on. I mean, you've already done it. You've already put a gate there in preemptively, but
autopilot.
yeah, but yeah. playtest 2000.
Yeah,
mission.
Literally.
But through you doing that, it's because you know, like, oh crap, maybe they're going to use those optional paths on me now, which is really cool. And I think even for new players who maybe weren't as prepared as you, they usually have that surprise there where it's like, oh no, I didn't think about that, or I didn't explore that way.
Yeah, they come down the side.
Yeah.
I actually want to mention one of my favourite things I did on this mission was this little optional pathway here. So if you notice it, you can kind of explore this little hidden area, and you go, oh, what's down here, and you find a pikeman camp that joins you.
Yeah, sick.
So, and they're kind of like this new unit. You did get one in the previous mission who was like a special villager, but now you have a bunch more who are like, really effective.
Yep.
Armor shredders, attack from a distance,
Knock back.
Then there's these ruins as well here. Curious about like what's down here. And this was like also a cool little moment where as you would go in here, you'd find all this gold, but then you get ambushed as they come out of their bases. So initially, as a little secret before, this was going to be a nightmares were going to come out of the ground, but because they hadn't been introduced yet.
Yep.
it
Yeah,
didn't-
we
it
had
didn't
certain
work.
beats, like narrative beats, like this mission, this is going to happen, and I think this one for a long time was like, this is going to be the one when we show pikemen. Pikemen needs to be the thing that you raise up.
Mm.
I think towers and building was also the first thing. It was like that's the first thing that we're teaching in this map. It's map building.
Mm-mm. I guess it's just a nice little tease to give you a bunch of pikemen just to play with.
Yeah.
And then experience it if you find them.
Yeah, that's sick. I love that. That's so cool to start to introduce those things in more subtle ways, and then when there's like the hard introduction or the hard tutorial for it, it's a bit more, But like, and it's very rewarding for the player to be like, oh, I found those secret pikemen. Like, I already did that. Like,
Yeah.
I already had a little bit of them. Like, I think that stuff's really, really cool.
Yeah, I want to know if you guys, if you guys found any secrets in the missions. It'd be so cool to hear.
Cool. I'm curious to hear your take on this pitch
Yep.
from Cy Washington. Hear me out. A shapeshifter faction where all the troops shift at night like were creatures. Just tossing it out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You say you're officially heard. No, I think it's a really cool idea. I think the opportunity, I think, if we ever were to do new factions, is we've, like I said before, we've got plenty of options already. What the details of those are yet, I'm not really sure. But people often go to Alderaan Empire, but we've even got the Elosans. The Elosans could be a faction. The Nightmares could be a faction. There's plenty of things that we could do, I think. And I think shapeshifting, I wouldn't say no to shapeshifting as a concept. I think
It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, like talons that become sort of nightmare-esque at night, something like that.
That could be cool.
Yeah, no, I think that's cool. And then also Star Sign Pisces. Oh no, they broke
God.
through. I also like that it was just two villagers doing the work and the other guys are just hanging out. Really a statement of intent.
Really builds it into the Iron Talon's personality.
Yeah.
Just, dominating over villages. And they're doing all their dirty work for them.
Feeling confident about being able to take this little ambush at the top.
Ah, there you go. There you go.
Those archers are doing some work, dude.
Star Sign Pisces, I think this is a sentiment which many people can echo. I beat the campaign 2 or 3 days ago. Congratulations. After owning the game since 2021. Thank you for having the game for so many years. I know way too long, ha 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 ha, but Mission 9 was the hardest for me.
Ooh.
Teamwork, that was me and Shane, but big shout out Shane on that one. 9 is intense. It's very intense. I think you mentioned earlier that objective kind of gives you that first glimpse of a Death Knight, but I think the goal there is time pressure. Time is such a critical feature in Age of Darkness, especially the survival. And I think 9 is no shortage of that. It's time pressure of the mission.
Yeah. And also, I mean, you can pause, but
How dare you?
I don't do that because I'm a god. But it is incentivized that as you see these guys come in, you want to pause and then think about, okay, I need to build up some more houses, or I need to, build up a bunch of units that I need, get that going, unpause. So I think it's just when you're on autopilot, you just kind of know what to do. But it's wanted to make sure that even in that moment when you're getting pincered from the top, you could be like, I could still pause and think about, okay, what do I do?
Yeah.
How do I address? How do I come against this?
Difficulty is also a challenging thing in the campaign. You know, with us only having one difficulty, it's we kind of have to try to cover all grounds. As I said, it is mainly focused at being a introductory sort of thing, but we want to take people on that journey. Right? We want to get people ready for survival, so there has to be those difficulty spikes, and I think we weren't afraid of letting people lose like a little bit on those harder missions. There are definitely spikes, like difficulty spikes, and it's really just to get people ready for what survival is. Really, you know, you're going to lose. It's going to happen. I think if we shelter people too much and made it you know, maybe a little bit more like modern day sort of campaigns where it's very, very easy. Not only does it undermine like any of the sort of seriousness to the plot, but yeah, it doesn't really give you a fair preparation for survival. Yeah, I think 10 we could have gone even further and made it harder, but I think for a finale, when things start getting mentally straining, we didn't want it to feel incredibly hard right after 9 again, so we try to make it grandiose but not, you know, not too crazy difficult.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Yeah, I think that's super fair. Sire Washington, love to hear it and really appreciate that you all taking the time to answer questions. Yeah, thank you so much for being here and answering questions, and just shout out to the community in general for, you know, providing so much feedback. I think TJ, who's one of the moderators, here said there was like something like 22,000 messages in the Discord in January. Something ridiculous like that. So the community has been absolutely popping off and very much giving feedback and just talking about the game. And it's been so incredible to see like how much people, you know, are just talking about the game, and whether it's like talking to us directly about like, hey, this is something I've noticed, or this is something I love, or just talking to each other about like, you know, hey, who wants to meet up and play co-op, or, you know, hey, does anyone have advice? I just got into the game and I need to deal with crushes. What's my advice? And then you have like old vets of the game with their like hundreds of hours being like, let me tell you.
Well, my favorite is seeing that. Like Reddit is actually another place for it. Reddit was quite, you know, pretty quiet pre 1.0.
Yep.
And I'm seeing more and more posts every day where it's like, hey, just got started. How do I play this faction?
Yep.
You know, and then you've got people coming in that maybe aren't veterans, but people that have definitely played it. So there's a knowledge and understanding of the game, which is really cool to see. It's really refreshing to see that, yeah, community helping community and new blood, old blood. It's really awesome.
Yeah, and we want to be, you know, a part of that. I mean, Mario is definitely someone who's very active in the Discord as well. And it's like, yeah, it's fun to be a part of that discussion. And it's like, you know, I'm sure you can speak to it, but it's like when people love your game and want to talk about your game, I'm sure it's like inspiring of like, yes, you have takes, I have takes. Let's talk about the takes that we have. For
sure, yeah. And I think giving insight sometimes is nice, giving context, sometimes reasoning as well. Sometimes people are like, why the hell did you do it that way? I was like, well, you know, yeah, we're never too stubborn to hear criticism as well. Like, we want to hear criticism too. And yeah, it's a discussion.
Yeah, and Age of Darkness is very much a game that is in communication with its community as far as like impacting game design and things like that. So, you know, when you are suggesting factions and stuff, it's like, oh, okay, you know, we'll put it into the mix.
Shape-shifting.
Yeah. Or like when you're talking about things where it's like, you know, when it comes to like, oh, what is stuff that people want for the future? It's like there are certain things that are definitely being said quite a lot, and it's like, okay, like maybe that possibly shifts up in a possible priority order.
100% does,
and things like that.
When we're having these conversations that Alex was talking about before about what the future even means, no promises on what we're doing, but we prioritize the things based off the community. So if we're hearing a lot of people saying they want shape-shifting, we start putting that up in that list more and more.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that's also been happened in the past where it's like, you know, campaign, multiplayer are both things that, I mean, you guys can talk to, but moved up in the priority list and got sort of into the game because of just sort of that loudness of the community and the desire, and, you know, talked about before, oh, they were once grayed out buttons and now you can click them, and the progress on both of those, you know, coming into reality in part is very much because, as you're saying, you give us too much power, ha 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 ha. But at the end of the day, it's like the players are the ones that play the game. So
yeah, look, you know, and you know, it's a business, but really when it comes down to us making it, like the people that actually make the game, like we're not really involved on the business side. We're doing it because we want to make good games for players, right? Like we were players like everyone else at one point, and we enjoy these games, like and we enjoy what we make. So end of the day, if our fans and fans of the game want stuff. We want to make people happy. Yeah, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, and on that, one of the coolest things has been seeing like a lot of people who are like coming back to 1.0 and they're saying like, oh my god, yes, I've been wanting multiplayer. I'm so excited that multiplayer has been added. Like I played it 2-3 years ago, a year ago, whatever, sometime in early access. And I was like, man, I would love to play this with my friend. It came out in multiplayer and now I'm playing with my friend just as I wanted. Thank you so much. Like this is the experience. I'm having a great time with it. And it's been so cool to see that like again and again and again. And it's like, I assume there's not much better feeling than someone being like, yes, I wanted this from the game, and then the game did that.
We shared
another huge success, by the way. Congratulations.
Probably he's
on a roll.
Yeah.
You seem to just know what to do in his missions.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, just foresight. Yeah, so yeah, nice little fun side mission. I really loved that one. So there was a little cool little hidden things in there as well, like when you take out those last 3 training halls at the end there, like if once you take out 2 of them and there's 1 left, the Iron Talon have like a last ditch effort to try and kill you. So they grab all their remaining forces and head to the last training hall that was destroyed to try and take you out. So it was like cool little moments like that, little beats we wanted to hit that was really important. So it was fun to do stuff like that.
I think it shows, man. I think just to give a little fourth wall break, the team internally, this was many people's favorite mission for a long time. So good work, Hamza. Just a really clean mission. I think elegant is the word that sort of defines it. You can see that you've cared a lot about those little sort of nuances in the mission. And even though it's not a big grandiose nightmare battle or anything like that, it's clean AF. I feel like it feels like a straight out of Warcraft 3 kind of vibe, StarCraft
the
vibe.
highest form of compliment.
Yeah, so really good
Thank
stuff,
you,
man.
Mario.
Really clean mission.
Appreciate it. But now we got the next 2 missions, which are just as equally awesome. Which made by yours truly.
So this one is actually this one's quite
Hand
funny.
over the reins.
This was our
just switch seats. Sorry.
yeah, we'll just
Switch seats? Yeah.
Yep.
Because it's kind of
Bit of chaos otherwise. Yeah, nice. So the interesting one with this mission, this is actually the very, very, very first mission that was ever made in our campaign editor. So whilst our editor was being made, I was making the very first increments of this. Unfortunately, we didn't have great things like the prologue ads or certain heroes in it or certain functionalities of the editor itself. So I think this mission's probably gone through maybe the most iteration
crazy
and the most versions. So I'd say that even though it's cool and I really enjoyed the stuff that we pulled off with this one, our main goal for this one was introducing the nightmares. That was like the big sort of ticket here.
I think what's really funny about this mission is we'll see as we get into it, but because it was such an early one, we'd have cutscenes, with Merrick and other soldiers in it, but we didn't have a model for Merrick yet.
Yeah.
So we just had Edwin with another Edwin talking to
Theta as well.
and Theta. And Theta was like
Just
another
3
Edwin.
Edwins. And Aurelia wasn't made yet either, so she was A-list.
Yeah, it's
So
right.
we had for a long time the early missions were
That's
were
right, we had
Edwin and
A-list. Yeah.
And
Mission 1 and 2 had A-list instead.
yeah.
And it was weird playing because her stats would just shred enemies.
Yeah, because she's made to clear fast. Like she's meant to be a fast clearer.
So it's just so funny.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah, so this one's interesting. Yeah, like I said, it's gone through a lot of iteration. Had a pretty clear goal from the start, but yeah. We'll go through it. So, cool. So this is mission 3, Coercion. Big shout out to Nick Collin as well, the guy that we shouted out earlier, who helped out a lot with Shane's missions and keeping this campaign going. He was definitely our kind of leadership throughout the campaign direction and making sure we got it out in time. I think he actually had a last pass on a lot of these sort of descriptions and names, and I think they're really nice. They're elegant. They summarize kind of what we're doing in the missions, which is cool. So Edwin and Aurelia race towards an Order outpost where Sir Merrick is stationed, assaulted by the bulk of the outlaw Iron Talon forces. So we kind of give a little bit of a glimpse of it, I think, in the previous mission about the Alderaan Empire, talking about Edwin's fat friend. We're talking about Merrick. I know, it's so disrespectful.
But friend is nice.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
He's a knight.
Yeah.
He's a knight. They should respect him.
Yeah.
I don't know what their problem is with him.
He seems chill in my mind.
He's a saint.
He's a cool guy.
Oh yeah.
No, shout out all America fans. Merrick referenced Merrick's Outpost. No, I really like the way this mission starts, and it kind of introduced like more lore, and you can certainly talk about it, where it's like this idea of like certain order knights, or various members of the order kind of like having their own baronies, I suppose is maybe the best comp. I don't know if you have another sort of term that you think of it in this outpost, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, there's these like townships, and there's this sort of like
So cool as well.
very, very cool.
Yeah, the idea was pretty loosey-goosey, but it was meant to feel like there's a few elite order knights, not knights in the unit, but characters like Edwin and Merrick and Theta, who had some sort of, power, I guess, military power and respect within the community, and the ability to go out and perform missions or tasks and stuff like that. So in this case, we've kind of got Edwin, who before the campaign was kind of down on his luck a little bit and a little bit depresso, taking it easy, whereas Merrick has been out in the field up to no good, as we see from the conversation between Theta and Merrick at the start here. So yeah, they've got a bit of autonomy, these characters, which means they can get up to no good as well.
Merrick would never.
Yeah. Cool. So here we've just cleaned out a little Iron Talon attack.
So this is the cutscene I was talking about. This
Edwin.
Yeah.
Pikeman.
Yeah.
I mean, bring it back. I mean, if we have footage of that, I would love to.
We do. Yeah.
Dude, it's
yes.
so funny.
We showed it at a PAX panel when we were talking about when the campaign came out. It was hilarious. The AI voice acting too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the voice acting is incredible. I mean, it's cool. There's been like people, like some of the voice actors have won awards and been nominated for awards for Age of Darkness. The Vizago voice actor won an award, I think, a couple months ago. So the voice acting in this game is really incredible. And we are just like talking through it as I am right now, very nonchalantly. But yeah, definitely, play the campaign and sort of get into it and really enjoy the cutscenes and the narrative and the story and everything. Like, we're talking about a bit, but I guess one of the things we want to do is show off that insight that you guys have as we play the campaign, rather than experiencing the campaign, which you should do by playing the campaign.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I really like this stuff.
I think it was actually, as Mara might have alluded to, with the AI voices, like as part of our pipeline, when we were trying to get just an early stage of voice into the game, you just want to see what it sounds like, the length of the dialogue, how long does it take them to do a sentence,
Just the pacing of the
just
conversation.
the pacing conversation. We had like AI voice.
Sorry, love that.
Yeah. We had AI voices in, so Hector used to be like a Italian American, like just somehow.
Hey,
like,
brother Vizago.
Brother Vizago, yeah.
I'm walking over here.
Yeah. So it was just really, really funny. It's never escaped us now.
It's still that's deep AOD core. But we've got memes between the team from the earliest voice acting. It was the best.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, that's the kind of hot inside goss you guys get by watching these streams. Oh my god, quite a bit of discussion. Let me just see if I can hit some hits here. We've got someone. Okay, this is a general thing as far as like new units. The discussion about like firearm and the possibilities of that. Like, what is your general takes on introducing that as a concept to the world?
As in like guns, like weapons, like
like
firearms.
Units. Like if there was a new unit that had like firearms, or just even that idea of like where firearms sit within the lore of this world or the narrative of this world. Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, so for me, I don't think firearms would be what I'd want to start with. I think fire, I wouldn't say no to fire, and I wouldn't say no to explosives. We've got the bellow towers, but I think, in terms of like where it is, I know it's fantasy, but where it is in terms of like the time period, tar and fire is kind of like where we're at. Even magic is very, very subtle, so if someone was going to have something that was explosive and dangerous, it would probably just jump straight to magic. Most likely. But I think in terms of like creating new units or heroes, if we were to do anything like that, where we'd start is like, what do we want to solve first? We wouldn't really start with like, firearm would be cool. We'd be like, hey, what do we need? We need something that deals with AoE or something that does this sort of thing, and then we'd figure out how we solve it within our world rules.
Yeah, that's it. That makes a lot of sense as like, you know, process of thinking. Yeah, that's really cool. Stop Ice is just saying a Grenadier would be kind of sick to have.
One of our first units early on was actually called a Grenadier. So that's funny how that is. Yeah, definitely agree. I think in the current meta, it would make sense for us to make maybe like a character kind of like the Spitter. I think would be really good. Yeah, that's a great idea. And if you guys have more ideas like that, like unit ideas, even themes, let us know.
Yeah, 100%. Like on the Discord, I mean, you can do it on Steam forums, but there's like on the Discord, there's a bugs and feedback channel, and you know you can chuck stuff there. Just put a feedback tag on it. The team will see it. The team very much looks at the Discord. So if you chuck it in, the Discord, especially in that channel where it'll like stay a bit more prominent for longer. And you can galvanize some of the other members of the community to really get behind you, and you can get that discussion going. Like, you can get some prominence on these ideas for sure. But yeah, definitely start to seed that stuff. I mean, as someone who has, no active stake in the creation of that stuff, I always see the feedback. I'm like, that would be sick. That's awesome. Yes. I'm like, yeah, as I've got that improv background. I'm just like, yes, and baby, what if that game design idea and more? No, I love that stuff. So what are you thinking about as far as like these optional missions and what we actually have to do here?
Yeah, so and I've got to give credit to Amza because this mission went through so much iterations in terms of trying to solve stuff. Some of the stuff we're trying to do in it is pretty complex in terms of sequence of like making the mission make sense and give player more autonomy, give them more freedom, more player agency. That's kind of what we're trying to do across the campaign. We're trying to get to the point from at the start where it's very handheld to the end where it's almost like survival plus, right? Which is really challenging in itself, but yeah, this little side mission here is just about you scouting and checking out some of the areas because, I love the idea of discovery as well and going out and finding little bits and bobs. And in this, it's about you doing it in time. It's about you sort of figuring it out. There's quite a bit of pressure that comes in this mission. We're trying to allude to it by having this known force here that you've come across. That there's a big large force here, so I'm alluding to a pressure coming. So yeah, I'm hoping the player knows at this point that this one is going to have pressure on it and you kind of need to figure out how to do things in time.
My God,
Edward!
Everyone's going to die? Hello?
You got abilities.
I do have abilities, you're right.
Press C, for the love of God, press C.
Get him!
Why are the archers so strong, guys? Nerf the archer, dude.
Oh my God.
Buff Mario.
Yeah. Buff my account specifically.
I almost had a panic attack.
Let's get the debug menu going. Let's open it up.
I just saw it. I was like, Edward.
Yeah, I was like, you are absolutely playing with fire, no pun intended. And then you just stayed there. You were just hanging out. I was like, oh my goodness.
Where's your healer?
Yeah, so that's why I didn't have Aurelia with me. That's what happens.
Oh. Also, damn, that building just hanging by on a thread.
Yeah.
Where are we heading?
All right, well, a pitch that I just saw on unit types. Hope you guys are okay with just reading out unit type pitches from the chat.
Let's go. Maybe might see in the future.
Maybe you might see in the future. I love that the hunters have traps, but an actual trapper or a trap defense would be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Right?
Trapper. What would a trapper be doing? Is it someone that like holds off nightmares, captures them, and you can then? It's almost like a crowd control type unit.
Yeah, it could be something like kind of like bear traps. Like it actually like stops them, kind of maybe like cow tropes, but like Cyrus's ability cow tropes, but more like actual hard CC. Or maybe it could be more soft CC. You could throw a net to slow down. So there's like a unit that maybe just throws, nets, and they slow down like 2-3 enemies at a time. That just kind of like, if you're running away from enemies, or like especially if you're exploring the map and you have kind of like axemen charging you, like slows down and gives you more time for archers to pop at them. I don't know. There's my yes and to your to your take. I don't know. That could be one way to do it.
Yeah, it's hard. Someone mentioned something about adding an active to ours. It's hard because I think the challenge with this game already is micro is something for people to get over. Like they have to solve that and deal with it, and it's not for everyone, you know. So I think where we can try and come up with solutions that are elegant, that don't require more micro, is kind of like ideal.
Oh, I wasn't thinking of it as an active. I was thinking that their weapon is a net.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's just the only thing. So it's low damage.
Yeah.
Like a barbed net.
Yeah.
Actually, exactly that. Yeah, star sign Pisces, 95 and 9. We're on the same
Nice.
page. Yeah. I've got you. I'm pushing it. I'm pushing for it.
It's really
I'm going to the AOD stand-ups and being like, hey guys, just really want to reinforce. I don't know, somebody pitched a really cool trapper design idea and we need to get it.
Definitely
a meeting with the
Pisces.
board.
Yeah. Yeah, we're meeting with the board. And that's the one thing. Also, Mazoe, I just want to shout out. I see you running messages. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the chat. Welcome back. Yeah, I mean, okay, so I'm loving this aggressive... I'm loving the way that you're doing the tower setup.
Mm-hmm.
This is certainly, I would say, maybe not how the intended tower setup is for beginners, but I love that you've got that sort of... You're doing sort of much more advanced tower setup, which is, hey, let them through, but give them that sort of angle for the melee units to really pop that damage, especially if you are running Edwin, which is, you know, an incredibly strong AoE melee damaging hero.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
Fire Strike.
OG
it's
goat.
like, yeah, you don't necessarily want to be cutting off their ability to take it down. And now we see those gates coming in.
Yeah, the
everybody's
only reason I had
favorite
that
building.
open was because I lost a pikeman before, and I was like, I should have. Yeah, Gates is literally the building for that. So.
Oh, this is an interesting one. Has the thought of allowing players the ability to remove trees ever crossed the design table?
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. Because, you know, one of our big inspirations, Warcraft 3, you know, a lot of other RTSs, of course.
AoE 2 as well.
AoE 2, like, all have the ability where you can, you know, shoot into, like, I guess in my history of playing RTSs, like, I was a big Warcraft 3 player, you know, you could fire catapults into trees to break them down, build pathways and whatnot. But then it introduces a whole can of worms where it's, what does that do with resourcing and balance and whatnot? And you have to kind of build the game around that. You know, the possibility of losing the wood that you just destroyed. And then that also means that if I have a lumberyard, like, does the lumberyard, like, consume the trees as it goes through it?
Yeah.
Like, so it's a lot of questions like that get asked.
There was some things that, you know, I guess in terms of game philosophy, I guess, with AOD, you know, inspired by they are billions, of course, but the idea of having some of the existing functionalities of RTS a little bit more automated. So the most obvious one is the idea that you don't have villagers, and instead you've got villager allowance that you control.
Yep.
To change the effectiveness of certain buildings. Going back to the version where you've got destructible terrain, like where it gets consumed, it actually goes back to the higher micro sort of style. It doesn't really go again with that philosophy. So I think that was part of it as well, where we kind of knew from the start, was like, all right, that doesn't really fit what we're trying to do, and it kind of unwinds the other things that we've done, the other efforts that we've done that go the other way.
I think it came up like a few times just in campaign, just because it would have been cool where, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna hide this little pathway behind trees, and you can destroy the trees to get to that pathway.
Yep.
But yeah, as Mario mentioned, in the holistic sense of things, it wouldn't really benefit the game.
Right, let's definitely talk about this, because this is the first introduction of, you know, blessings.
Yep, yeah, for sure. So this is something that we kind of wanted right from the start, before we even had campaign planned out. We love the idea of having choices of some degree, and although I think in the total campaign there's probably less than like what we initially wanted to do, we did get to sort of explore it, which was really fun, both in, you know, narrative sort of ways and here in gameplay sort of ways. So yeah, as you said, it's definitely inspired directly from our blessings and mechanics, where you get to choose what you get, and yeah, we wanted to give you a bit of touch of that, a bit of taste.
What are you thinking?
I'm definitely on Bliss.
Yeah, I don't think
That was so quick.
yeah. No discussion. Yeah.
So the thing for me is, like, I'm going to get all of them, most likely. But
Guys, I'm really
good.
good, so I'm never gonna like all of them.
Should have gone hard mode and just got the worst ones.
yeah,
Like,
but
get a house.
The one that I want free is that one, just because it's going to take some time to build them up and stuff. So the earlier I've got it, the better. Is my mindset.
Yeah, I love Blister Towers. They're my personal favorite building in the game. because I just feel like they have so much. You get them like relatively quick, like early into the game, and they just have so much utility.
And you get them to tier 2?
You get them to your tier 2, but it's also like they even like level 1 or tier 1 stays useful for like the entire game because of pest waves and things like that. Like you're just dropping like a ballista tower, like, you know, oh, I'm in that sort of like outer stage of the map. Oh, there's some stone. I'm gonna drop a ballista tower. That's gonna be enough to just like make sure I can get that extra stone later in the map.
Safe.
Or that they're safe, right? And it's just really allows you to not have to micro those areas. And like unlike something like a tower or whatever, where you have to like send soldiers there, and you know if it falls, they have to go back and everything. It's just like so nice to just be able to drop and go like, cool, that is defended, and all I have to really do is make sure if it gets damaged, I press the repair button. But that'll probably just happen when you repair or anyway, incidentally.
Yeah, exactly. I was always a repair all guy.
Yeah.
I was just like, yep. Even when I had one building.
Yeah, I press it all the time. It was crazy watching Yuta and Mario play and like looking at it, it'd be like repair 27, and I was like, guys, press it for the love of God. And I was like, oh, is that some like high level like, you know, macro like thing of like, oh, I want to keep those resources. I don't think they're value, and they were both like, no, just like literally forgetting to press it.
No, Mario just wants to keep the health low. So
Yeah,
that, you know, he has the blessing to change the nightmares. You know, strategy.
Shout out to our lead designer. That was a
Gabriel's
hint towards
place.
him.
Oh,
Sean
yeah.
Gabriel.
Oh.
Also the lead designer of Kill Knight. Speaking of which...
Getting a lot of shout outs today. Shout out Kill Knight. Pick up a copy.
Shout out, Sean.
1.2 crystallized update just got released on console. It's very exciting. Yeah, let's work together. And they work together forever. Oh, that's fun. From pop from whatever, the grey to the blue.
Yeah, so that's a really small sort of subtle thing, kind of, and this is why I relate so much to Amza's mission and hearing him talk about it. There is so many of those little moments where you know you're playing the campaign. Not everyone is going to notice the little intricacies, but when you're making it, you're thinking about those magic moments where it's like, oh my god, if I was a player, this is going to happen. If someone notices this, that'll be really cool. And yeah, that was one of them. So in this mission, saving these Norfolk are actually both optional. I found it really important to ensure that, you know, these things were optional. They weren't a forced link sort of thing. Like, yes, it's ideal to do it, but I wanted to feel optional. So, like, the mission should function even if you don't follow it the right way, was the big thing. But if you did do it, you'd get this payoff where we've now got some kind of some new tech that doesn't really exist outside of the campaign, which, you know, Amza, myself, and Shane worked on plenty, right? We worked on plenty of custom features that we built inside our editor, like this, where we've kind of emulated AI. And we do a lot more of this in the other missions as well, in Mission 8 and 7 and 9 and 10.
What a crazy order for you to say those 4 numbers in.
I should have just said from 6 onwards.
That's like one thing I really like about this mission. I think it's really cool. Is there's a lot of things going on, and it really feels like a living piece of the world. Like you've got our soldiers, you know, getting on a separate faction, coming in and helping you out. You're building your army. You're helping out the villagers here and there. You've got people in the little camps below, like doing their thing. There's a lot of different things happening, and it just makes it feel so alive. So that's what I like about it.
Yeah, it really expands out sort of the, like, as you said, the world, but the feeling of it's like the ecosystem that's like happening, especially when you're looking at the map, as we talked about before, and there's like, oh, there's factions sort of assigned to different areas, and you see all the different names, and you can look at it. And, you know, the previous missions have been, like, pretty small in scope purposely because it's, like, you know, early in. And this is where you're like, oh, yeah, there is, like, a lot of people. There's a lot of different factions. There's a lot of different, like, you know, things happening in the world. And that's going to continue to expand. But I think this is definitely the biggest, like, step up where you're like, whoa, there's a lot happening. And also, oh, there we go. You're starting to unlock, you know, the lodge. You already did the tech for the farm. So talk about the decision, I guess, of it's like, having the blessing provide you one of those, and then the workshop being a building you can unlock, and then being able to get those other 2 as well.
Yeah, so this was a late addition to this mission, but it did come through as we were starting to get some of the other missions together. We were realizing, as I mentioned before, what we're trying to teach for each mission, and it seemed like a really good opportunity to have the choice of building what you want, but then also, yeah, introducing the workshop functionality. As we know, that's a pretty cool thing in survival, being able to get new tech and stuff. So yeah, it just seemed like a really nice sort of elegant spot to put it before we really let you go full open, no sort of objectives, which is what we see in Mission 5, where that almost simulates survival entirely. This was kind of like the handheld version of letting you use research.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, really cool. So what are you doing as you prep? Where's your head out for this mission?
So here I'm looking around. I know there's a few areas that I haven't really explored properly, so I'm just looking around a bit more, see if there's anything I can grab. It is telling me to go slay the Iron Talon Warlord, and I know this is kind of a consistent threat. This is a little bit different to the other missions where this is persistent. Like, I know this is... I can't just send these units in and hope that they're going to win. If I do that, there is a chance that I'm going to have a lot of losses. So I'm slowly just building up a little bit before I move on to the next sort of step of taking it out, just to see if there's anything that I missed. There's a nice stone up here, but yeah, just a bit of an exploration, really.
That's nice because you got those little soldiers helping you out.
Yeah.
Like slowly whittling it down bit by bit.
Yes, this is again, a lot of people may not notice this, but because both of those towns were saved, they're sending their own units to actually slowly take out this team with you. So kind of works cool as like an AI story thing, but it's also giving you a little bit of a reminder of where you're meant to be going and what you're meant to be doing.
Yeah, sick. Do you guys want to hear more pitches on different units?
Sure.
Let's chat.
Well, that's what a lot of the chat is doing. Is
Love
just
it.
discussing.
It's fun. It's a fun thing to do.
A really cool unit that could that the Volatus could get is some kind of unit that that converts nightmares to friendly units. Could be in exchange for their own life, and for each tier or type, the X amount converting units. Basically, what do you? I mean, you guys both looked at each other with a real specific look. That idea of converting units.
I think it's for those that have played the campaign. There's a little fun moment that relates to that a little bit, which we kind of teased, which I put in one of the missions. But it's definitely been like a cool idea that's always gone around, where it's like, oh, what if the Voltus could be the ones that control nightmares and survival? So it would be sweet. I think it does have its own little things you have to consider. Like, okay, do I just build a bunch of crushers and just win? So, so there's a lot of things that you have to always think about, and how does that whole system work? So, but it's definitely been something that, has been talked about a bunch. So, because, it's the cool thing of turning your enemies into allies. But, I mean, we sort of half have it, with the blessing, where the change of heart.
Yep.
So you already get that feeling a little bit, what it's like to have a nightmare on your side. So, but yeah, we'll see.
We will see.
See.
Indeed. Just want to shout out, Hey Charmer, who said, we'd love to see more support for this game. There's definitely going to be support for this game, and we've been seeing, like, as I said, I think there's been 6 or 7 hot fixes in the last 2 weeks, which is crazy. Shout out everyone for doing that. And congrats on hitting a new all-time high player count. Yeah, I mean, how do you guys feel about, hitting the new player count? Like, obviously, it's like incredibly exciting, but
What's our current number?
of all-time high?
Yeah.
I think it's 6.4 something.
Nice. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's triple or double what our original.
I think early access was like 3.5.
Oh, 3.
But like, I think the difference being in that, like, that number of like, 5, 5.5, 6, whatever, was like basically being hit every night for the first like 10 days.
Yeah,
Where it was just like, you can kind of look on, steamdatabase.com and go to Age of Empires if you want to see that chart. But yeah, it's like, it's just consistently going there. And the fact that we hit the highest all-time high on the Sunday a week and a half later is really, really cool to be like, there's that sort of consistent player base coming through, and there's sort of that consistent like new influx of players, but sort of that retention of a lot of people like playing and going cool, and then coming back the next night, coming back the next night. Yeah, it's been great. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. I think it's always a great feeling to see a lot of people really engaging with the game and enjoying it. I think that's always just amazing, just to see people playing it every day and getting a lot out of it, and just really enjoying the co-op now, and talking about like thinking about units and what could possibly happen. Like, that stuff's always means a lot to us. So yeah, to see even more people now engaging is it's cool. It's like, when we're building out these missions and doing our little updates, it's this cool little thing that we're just working on, and now it's like everyone's actually really loving it. So yeah, it's a great thing. So I really appreciate all the love that everyone's giving us.
One of the cool things from, I guess, a bit more of a marketing perspective is it's like pretty classic to get content creators to play your game, right? And so many of those content creators, played for that 2-hour block and then just have continued to play the game and are like, wow, this is really great. And like Raptor today, streaming to like 300 people and being like, yeah, I'm doing my playthrough. Or people going like, oh, I'm going to play the campaign and then finishing the campaign and just like continuing that. And you can go on, creators' channels and it's like they're just continuing to do that. And I think like that's, I guess, like one of the greatest successes as well is like when you have people that you like pay to play the game and they're like, yeah, cool, and now I will continue to play it entirely unpaid because I really love this game. And also like, they're making those videos and continuing to stream it because the community wants that content from it.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, are you guys coming back? Like, I want to see more Edge of Darkness. Like, let's do a more multiplayer. And those like streamers or whoever who, maybe we never even got in contact with, picking up the game and getting on the hype and being like, oh, this is like a game that's popping off. Like, I'm going to get into it. And there was a lot of people who, got it through like Keymailer and stuff and started playing the game that way. Keymailer being a way you can get codes if you're a creator for inside knowledge. And then playing the game that way and being like, oh, if I'm a creator, this is the game I need to be playing. Which is so cool to start to see that of like, this is bigger than just sort of like the marketing that's been generated, and I think really, really cool. And obviously the player base is very, very much reflecting that. An audience like watching streams, and you go on Twitch right now in the Age of Darkness category, people are streaming it, people are playing it. You go on YouTube, people are still playing it, and that's so cool. Speaking of, little bit of insight, if you are a creator or you're someone who makes content, we are going to be starting to introduce in the Discord a little bit of a clip of the week. So where basically, we are gonna, be asking the community for hot clips and the best clips chosen by me or the community. Still figuring out the exact tweaks. You can get Steam gift cards. Little bit of insight. Gonna figure out the exact, but yeah, start recording your clips, start getting those hot things. We'll give you Steam gift cards and we're gonna be posting them on our channels and everything. So yeah, because there's just so many people playing the game and enjoying it, and you can go into the Discord as well, and they're like looking for players, like servers, and people are like live streaming to each other and things like that. So definitely start recording clips. It's a game that can get great clips. Just shouting that out now, early. If you're watching on Steam, if you're watching live, get good clips. Send them to us. We want to see them.
I mean, it's even funny seeing, I think a while back, we had some of our bigger streamers like doing crazy runs of like, I think one, I don't know if this was a dream, but I think this was true. Like, someone was like...
I love that as an introduction.
Is this a dance pad?
Dance pad.
With Campbell Yarn?
Yeah, like beating, like, I don't know if, was it Nightmare difficulty?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, on a dance pad.
Yeah.
Shout out to Swedish Goblin. Absolute legend.
It's like, my lord. So seeing people even go like that, doing that kind of stunt is like so cool. It's like, they love your game that much that they'll beat it on a dance pad.
Shout out Swedish Goblin and shout out Cappuccinus, aka Crunchy Weasel. Definitely follow both of those guys on Twitch and on YouTube. They have some insane gameplay and have been doing it all the way through early access as well. And we very much recognize them and love them and appreciate them, and have been in contact with them through early access as far as playtesting the game and getting them to help us make content and stuff at that high level. But yeah, if you want really, really, really incredibly high level beating the game on 8.8 Nightmare, which is the hardest difficulty content with absurd challenges, check those guys out. They're incredible. So shout out to them. Sharma, I've been playing every day with my friends. Wow. Shout out you and your friends. Yeah, and then any plans for DLC? Yes, as we've talked about a couple times before, but we can mention more. There's definitely been a lot of discussions in the team about future plans for what Age of Darkness looks like. And that's what we'll say. Ooh. Yeah, Rebellion, baby.
Oh.
Red team into the mix.
The red team.
So many subtle things that we've changed as well. Like in the initial script, we actually had sight of Aurelia's darker side here. Not her being evil, but her being having the ability to be vicious. There was just a few tone things that changed along the way just to make it feel a certain sort of tone. But it's these things change a lot as you make it, script and missions and objectives.
Well, the original cutscene was 2 Edwins and an A-list as well.
3.
Yeah. I think it does a really good job. The narrative does a really, really good job of like seeding the change.
Yeah.
It's not out of nowhere where it's like, you know, and we talked a little about before when it's like that decision of like the getting the resources back for, and Alis being like, not Alis, Aurelia getting them back and being like, well, we should keep them. And it's like, there's that selfishness, as you're saying, there's that viciousness, there's that bloodlust. And even early on when I think, you know, her character's first introduced, as like the squire, her being like, you know what I like to do? Fight. I want to fight. And Edward being like, no, like it's not all about fighting. Like, goddamn, like
calm yourself, girl.
Yeah, like chill out. And it's like, you know, and then narratively when it does become that spoilers, she comes a little bit more of a bad boy. It's certainly not out of nowhere. Like you're like, right, that's always what she was like. And you know, when perfect gate placement.
Panic. You can pause, man.
Yeah. Don't pause.
It's a desk's fault. I'm not in the right environment for this.
Yeah.
I think it's cool also worth mentioning here. It's like this is our first look at, you know, the nightmares in the main part of the campaign. They are in the prologue, but like now, all of a sudden, there's a threat coming in.
Yeah, you're pretty much getting a simulation of a baby Death Knight at this point, which is what we're trying to prepare you for. Mission 5. Shout out Shane again. He's kind of like the big version of that. This is setting up for that really. So as we're working on this, and as Shane was working on 5, there was a lot of back and forth where maybe we had to go back into previous missions to highlight things, or maybe take things out, make them less prominent, to make the other missions shine.
I mean, pitch on. We just need to bump those numbers up. I'm thinking cosmetics. I mean, yeah, heard. As far as, you know, more suggestions going as well, cosmetics is definitely, you know, heard.
That's it. Nightmare Edwin.
I love this though.
Losin Edwin.
A Losin Edwin. Ooh.
¿Por qué no los dos? Oh my god, a gate fell? That's crazy.
Such a good building otherwise.
I think sorry, to go back to what you're saying about like having this introduction to sort of like Death Knights here and having nightmares. I think it's really cool, like the way that it's sort of staggered in. And I really like the way that, I mean, you are kind of cruising through, but like these
how do you know they're just going to come down there?
Yeah, that's a bit of crazy pre-prep.
It's prediction. It's like, you know, in survival, you predict when they're going to come.
But it talked about before, like, these like these levels like kind of are threatening. Like the first time you play, like, there is that genuine level of panic and like, this is hard. Like, you know, we've got a lot of, I can't remember what the unit's called, perfect utilization of the ability.
Very nice.
What are the spear throws called?
Spearman,
oh my god, of course. I was so close. It was one of those things where it's like, I'm pretty sure this is correct, but I just don't remember exactly.
Well, there is nice escalation in these waves because you come across like a wraith, which is what we'd call like indefinitely kind of like a tier 2 nightmare.
Yeah.
So they're a threat. They're scary when they deal high damage. When they die, they do a horror explosion. So, you know, we're starting to give you a few hard enemies that you come across.
Yeah, like this is a hard, I will say, I'm not ashamed to say this because I think this is the experience of many people playing Age of Darkness, but like I straight up had to like reload a save for this mission when I played it. I was like, this is like too much. And it was one of those things. I'm also like, I think the biggest thing that I had to change behavior wise for Age of Darkness is like thinking I would have enough resources and then realizing I don't. So trying to do too much pre-prep and being like, I actually, like, it's more intense and it's harder than I anticipated. I think that's a experience a lot of people have, where it's like if you've played RTS or games like this, you're like, I know the level of difficulty like normal is or whatever. And then you're like, no. Age of Darkness is definitely like doing it at a sort of like a different level.
Always got the ult.
Yeah.
Witness me.
Oh, shout out
Very
to
clean.
Perry on that effect. Oh,
Yeah,
so
big shout out
nice.
to Parry, whose birthday was yesterday. Yeah, happy birthday.
True.
Yeah, no, I think this is like really, it's cool that this amps it up so much, and it's like, no, this is a threat. It's constant. There's a lot happening. Well done, Mario. Excellent design. Also, I love that Edwin's just soloing.
Like the greatest soldier he is.
You think he's the greatest soldier
He is the greatest soldier.
canonically?
He's the knight.
Yeah.
He is the knight.
There actually was a version of the story that didn't make it to the missions. But we were going to show where the origin of his fire powers come from. One of the missions.
Huge. Did we do it?
What a crush.
We've made it. And here's where we're showing a bit of that the other side of Edwin, because Aurelia's not just meant to be evil. It's meant to be that he has pushed her away, and it's he's choosing what he thinks is the right thing. He's trying to redeem himself, but he's missing what's right in front of him.
Damn, Charmer. Thoughts on an endless mode?
It's a great idea.
Yeah. Has anyone ever brought that up before? Has that ever been discussed? Has that ever been?
Look, I think in a perfect world, we've got quite a few requests from people that could potentially be put into one package, and maybe.
Damn.
Always fun little game modes to always think about. What could come next?
Yeah, there's a really good. So we're currently doing like an Age of Darkness like art challenge, like creative challenge. But someone posted like a bit of artwork, but there was like a design, like a game mode that was suggested by them. That was like, you have to go to like sacrificial altars that are on the map and like give a certain amount of like units to basically like appease. Okay, I guess this is not the first time it's come up. Yeah, and it was like basically like appeasing blood crystals that way by like giving units and things like that. And like that's just one example of this. Like there are so many like, oh, all the pieces, well, a lot of pieces are here for Age of Darkness. Like, what if we did this like 25% tweak and changed it this way? What if we did this? And I think it's a very fun game to theorize on. And it's definitely something we see from the community a lot of like just people going like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And there's so many like cool ideas. Wow, didn't slay the other Iron Talon warlord. Reload, reset.
Damn.
Run it back.
This was actually, again, one of the first missions where, yeah, we really tried to do that, where it was like, hey, we kind of want you to replay this mission. You know, like you may not 100% it the first time.
Try to get other parts, yeah.
Speaking of game modes and stuff, you know, people have asked for like PvP now the co-op's out, and
Yeah.
I think we had a discussion internally as well, but I'm pretty sure someone in the community could probably take credit for it because they said it out loud. But doing like even something like a kill race, right, where it's like we're playing co-op, but we're competing against each other, even though that we don't change the rules of it. We're still buddies, but it's about who does more kills, or who gets more elites, or who has higher eco. I think there's so many options with what we've got out, which is really cool. But it's just cool to see people talking about it.
Yep.
I think we will hold off playing some extra campaign missions until next time. We will certainly be back, but we can like hang around for a bit because there are some comments that I have, you know, we can get to and things. Red and Riot, welcome back. Both young and old can enjoy the game. Not to mention it can be replayed for an indefinite amount of times. Pretty much every defense-based RTS game, but epic. Yeah, that's a really nice comment. And then I do want to read out, you know, kind of the suggestion they had, which is, once again, something that's very much been thought of. I do hope in the future we'll be able to have snow maps, which I guess ties into the concept of biomes. Do you guys want to say anything about...
I think if people really are keen for biomes, just keep yelling about it. But I think another thing that's really good as well is to actually speak about what you want from it, you know. Because I think if we were to just predict, you know, if we were to do biomes, let's theory craft it. Oh, we'll do a biome and we'll do similar to like Tab, where things are a bit harder, a bit bigger, a bit different. Let's hear the cool stuff. How do you do the Age of Darkness version of that? What do you want to see? What changes do you want to see? The crystals and the map, or rules with the nightmares, or blessings and malices? The more we see that stuff, the more people get excited by it, the easier it is for us to say, hey, why are we not doing this already? So yeah, I promote all of the discussions about that stuff. Please do more.
Yeah, this is me yelling about biomes. Thank you, Sire Washington. Yeah, I mean, and that's true with like anything really. Like when it comes to, hey, we want this. It's like if the community yell about it and really like stomp and go like, hey, we want this, it has a greater chance of happening.
Yep.
Um,
And go even further. Make a song about it.
Yeah.
Write a poem.
honestly, if you start creating videos and songs about different like game design you want and things you want, like that will help. I
That
think
100% will help.
like unironically.
If our CEO saw that, he'd be like, all right,
Yeah.
make this like today.
It's done now. It starts.
If you start name dropping our CEO in your song, in your plays, like I think, like,
might be a risky one.
cool. Anything else you guys want to drop off?
I saw a comment that was pretty cool. I think it was like a few
Yeah.
One's back. Oh, there you go. Yeah, what is something that you would all enjoy seeing in the game, in the devs, by Cy Washington? What do you think?
Nothing that we've potentially planned. Has to be something that's not already
Yeah.
planned that got cut.
I think for me personally, because I used to be a really big Warcraft 3 BattleNet person, which was like all the custom maps that people would make, and like it was just cool to see what people came up with. So I would love if down the road, you know, we're able to create something that's like a map editor that people could create their own modes, their own version of survival mode, or their own like mini campaign, or their own like
I'd love that so
PvP
much.
thing, like stuff like that, because it's the possibilities are endless with a editor. So I love that stuff and seeing what people can make.
Yeah, I can't agree more, man. There was a game that was I wasn't actually a Warcraft player like growing up. I played I think it was an Aussie game actually, but it was a turn-based strategy game called Battle for Westnorth. So shout out to the dev of that if you're still out there. I hope you are, because the game was amazing.
And we can only assume you're watching right now.
Imagine. That game was kind of the same, where it wasn't to the same degree where you do custom modes, because it wasn't really planned for that, but they made it so you can make custom campaigns.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it was done in a way that was pretty, low budget, like our Roblox and our Minecraft, where anyone could do it. You'd have the assets and stuff, and a lot of it was just writing and a little bit of sequence set up in things, no cutscenes or anything, but it was just so awesome. And they just had the simple thing of being able to like vote it up. That was it. And this was before social media and everything, so like you could make a campaign about Edwin in Battle for Westnorth, and I like it, give you a little tick, and everyone starts seeing it now. It was just such an awesome thing. So I think even if we couldn't do like the full Warcraft thing, where it's like, all right, let's go make Dota out of Age of Darkness, but just campaign missions would be amazing. Yeah.
I have a crazy suggestion, and I'm trying to think of something that like I've never seen pitched or anything. I think like a custom hero editor, where it just gives you like all the abilities, and then you can like make your own hero and mix and match, so you can like unlock all the different ones, using the resources.
I want that too.
Yeah, like I
Just
think
one hero with all the ultimates.
yeah, like I mean, you can do whatever you want. I think that could just be interesting. I don't know how that would work, but I mean that's something I've never seen pitched or anyone write about. I don't know if it's been talked about, but I think that would be kind of interesting. We do actually have a question that is lore-based, which you guys are definitely going to be able to answer, which is, I have a question. Why does Cyrus have a bad leg?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good one. We were kind of talking a little bit about this character just before the stream. So I don't think it's documented anywhere or anything like that, but the deep lore of Eridar and how things happened. Quick timeline was that before the Alderaan Empire came in and took over and usurped the throne, Aelis's family was actually in control. Her dad was in control. And outside of her dad, there was other families that were sort of supportive of the Siren family that kind of who make the rebellion and the Northfolk and the Iron Talon now. All the people that grew up and lived in Eridar. Cyrus was supportive of the rebellion and all that stuff, and when Aelis was thought to be dead, when the Alderaan Empire came and usurped the throne, she kind of was like captured and almost killed and stuff. He went out of his way to actually, with a group of people, so he almost started the rebellion, right? He was almost like the commander. He went in to save her, and in doing so, he did. There was almost like a sacrifice where he was permanently injured, and because of that, she's now the leader of the rebellion, because he wasn't really as capable anymore. If he hadn't have done that, and he was a bit more selfish and wasn't dedicated to his potential queen, he would probably be the leader of the rebellion today, and she may no longer exist. So yeah, big ups to Cyrus.
That's the narrative, but I do think Starsight Pisces, you are kind of hinting at the maybe more game mechanical reasons why is okay, so it's not because he'd be super strong being able to walk at a faster speed.
It is that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the narrative was there, but yes, the tie into it is definitely because in a game like this, having a ranged hero is broken.
Yeah, I mean, and pretty badass lore for him makes me actually like him more. I mean, I think it's one of the really cool things about playing the campaign is you go into survival and the characters are cool and you like play with them and you're like, oh, okay, sick, like, you know, they are sort of are what they are. But going into the campaign, having that narrative, and as we've talked about, you know, seeing Aurelia go from someone who's like aspirational but has a little bit of edge, be kind of pushed to become a Volatus, spoilers, you know, I think it makes you like appreciate her more when you go in, and having like, you know, her light bearer ability, which like
To heal.
to heal,
To
and then
heal,
you're
like
like,
that. That
oh,
connection.
that then becomes, you know, sort of the same mace that she then does damage with, and it's like mechanically it doesn't really change anything, but narratively, like it gives you that insight into the backstory, and I think it makes me appreciate all the characters so much more, and I think the campaign is like really good for that of like, yeah, I love these characters, then you like get to know them and you're like, oh, I really love these characters. So shout out to you guys for, you know, having the campaign do that, as well as being very fun and enjoyable.
Thank you.
And we just need memory missions, like single one-off little backstory missions.
Or maybe not.
Show some of this lore.
Like Dark Souls 2 style.
Mm.
So many things you could do with the game.
Oh, sorry. The question before was about what would we want to add. I think the other thing that I'd want to add is paths for unit upgrades. Would be really cool.
Oh yeah,
Or like a skill tree per like.
yeah.
No, not skill tree, but
Per unit?
upgrades. So you know how we've got emboldened, and you just become
Yeah.
emboldened. Another thing from Battle for Westnorth that I loved was you had a soldier, and if it levels up, you could choose to go pikeman or sentinel, for example.
Oh
right?
yeah.
And then after that, you'd have like the advanced version of that. So instead of just being a pikeman, you're now like a mega spearman, elite
Yeah, it's
spear.
sick.
So because of it, you had this permanence and this sort of like this feeling of like ownership of your army. Yeah, such a good mechanic.
It's like
So-
Fire Emblem vibes.
Yep. So shout out Battle for Westnorth again. Check it out.
Yeah. Thank you to the person who made it. I know he's watching.
Yeah, they're around. Awesome. Last thing I want to do is just shout out YouTube Chan, who's just made some comments, including Cyrus is the GOAT. And this game is so good.
Thank you.
So I just want to shout that out. Last thing before we wrap up is thank you so much everyone for joining. We are going to be doing these weekly streams. Seriously, after this one stream, my hype is stronger than ever. Thank you so much.
Hell yeah.
We're going to keep doing these weekly streams because I think it's awesome to get, you know, the game devs and to come and talk about the game and give insights and, you know, have that open communication with the community. We've talked a lot about how sort of that connection is, you know, so important to us, so important to, you know, the team to be able to hear what the community is saying and be able to talk to them. But yeah, we're going to be back next week. I think we might be playing multiplayer again, but we're going to continue playing the campaign. If you guys have any questions, you know, definitely join the Discord, be around, and we're here. So thank you everyone for your continued enthusiasm and support. It means so much to us. And yeah,
For the light.
For the light. I think I remember that one. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No, I'm very much team rebellion, so I feel like we're all on.
oh, on three
everything.
different teams.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I think you just yell Neil.
Yeah, Neil.
Yeah, if you guys do have any other thoughts, though, yeah, very much make noise about them in the Discord. That's a good place to go. Blue team, best team. Yeah, red team, best team. Red team, best team.
Green
Upwards
team, best
and
team.
downwards.
Yeah. Yellow team.